Hello and welcome. Um, this video is going to be a little long, and I wanted to give a complete review and a complete guide, if you will, on the exam for the ACRTP. So I did just get certified for this profession, Amazon Cloud Red Team Professional. And yeah, just I studied a lot, and I wanted to share my formula for you in order for you to pass completely. I guarantee that you'll pass if you follow this and what I did. And yeah, let's get into it. So firstly, let's talk about the exam and the entire program in general. So this program is a boot camp, and with the boot camp, you get 2 exam attempts, as you probably already know. The boot camp itself is a huge resource for preparation, although I did do a lot of other stuff that I'm going to share with you, some of them quite crucial. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the exam just to get out of the way a few facts about it. So the exam is 24 hours, and I completed it in 2 attempts. So I finished the first attempt, I started the second attempt, and then I completed it shortly after I started the second attempt. Um, Basically, it's the exam attempts do not expire, so you can do them whenever you want after as much preparation as you want. Even the resources that you have in the bootcamp don't expire either. So something about the exam is, firstly, that we need to get out of the way is that it's not just about AWS, as you probably could tell in the bootcamp if you attended, but if not, there's also something like initial access, which is for Amazon and all the clouds going to be, either phishing or what we did, which was, web application, web app attacking. And I'd say you would need at least an intermediate level of web penetration testing skills in order to get initial access. I know like for the bootcamp and for the labs on Pwnlabs, how advanced it gets, it's really just a matter of, encoding like 2 times, getting an SSRF, and, making your way towards the metadata, or what I did was like what I like to do, which is that I get the most out of the web application testing portion of the AWS or cloud assessment, just to get a more of a situational awareness, like turning that SSRF into enumeration of the entire host, get an idea of what's there, and this is something that is actually crucial in one of the cyber ranges that I used as preparation, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the exam until we get all the facts out of the way. So do you only need to know AWS? No. You need to know web app attacking. You need to know standard enumeration protocol for hosts. Um, and honestly, you need to know like general penetration testing, and you need to know general red teaming. Blue teaming would probably even help more because it'll give you more of an understanding of why you're doing things. But yeah, you need that general penetration testing background in order for you to build upon that by adding a layer of cloud penetration testing. So you can't go into this and skip everything else. Um, so before the exam, you're going to have access to the bootcamp environment, and this is going to be provided to you like 1 week before the bootcamp starts. That environment gave me a lot of preparation. I did it right when the bootcamp environment was provided. I did it by myself without any guidance the first time, and I knew that I didn't know anything or that much, but I still did it just to learn whilst in the act of hacking. And so I learned, discovered resources, learned about them, and then hacked. I did do the lab environment a second time to solidify what I learned and to do it, as fast as possible. Try to replicate the exam. You also get access to the labs. You get a 45-day lab voucher, which is also crucial to preparation. The labs provide Each lab, provides an entire network, I'd say, of like 3 to 4 different IAM roles, which are like users or multiple even different hosts or virtual machines or services or functions, like serverless functions leading to a database, leading to, a God knows what. And that's just the beauty of the Pwnlab labs. But yeah, this was crucial for preparation. I did all of the AWS red teaming labs except for the custom tooling one and except for the Kubernetes one because I didn't want to do things that don't directly apply to what I'm currently doing because yeah, like I'm starting a different boot camp next month, and I don't have time to just like study absolutely everything that ever exists. So I'm gonna give you what I studied and why I studied that specific thing to adequately prepare for the exam. So is there a report for this exam? Nope, there's no report. There's just a flag at the very end. And this makes it a little more, this makes it seem easier, but in comparison to other exams that have reporting, the thing about that is they intended for you to spend time reporting, and that's why they give you like an extra day for reporting or whatnot. So without that, all you're expected to do is hack within these 24 hours, and so they did make it challenging and expansive enough to match 24 hours of hacking. Like the exam's no joke, and that's something that you also need to keep in mind is do not undermine anything about the exam or this platform. Take it all very seriously. Like something that I noticed in the bootcamp is that a lot of people are doing the bootcamp, whilst they're working, whilst they're on vacation, whilst, these are all very established professionals that are in the bootcamp, and a lot of them, um, the part of the reason why I think at the current moment, the only person who has the certification or the first person to get the certification is I believe is because not many of these established professionals really care to just go through intensive preparation and training like me as just like a humble trainee that's trying to still gain knowledge and skills in the field. They're just chilling out, making stacks, senior cybersecurity. All these guys already have jobs and stuff. They're not in a rush like me. So but yeah, but if you want to prepare effectively, you're gonna need to be intense, and you're gonna need to prepare, as I'll show you, not just from Pwnlabs, but from a couple other resources that I'll share. So can you retake the exam? So the bootcamp gives you 2 exam attempts, and I use both, and you can retake them as soon as possible, and you can talk to the instructors as well about anything that you want that isn't within the scope or the rules, and they could help you out. They're very the instructors are very supportive. They've been very supportive for me, both inside and outside the exam. Everything always running smoothly. If it's not, I found 2 bugs during the exam. I mentioned to the instructor, I was like, you can contact me at any time to find bugs for your environments, and I did that for Electra as well, and I'm doing it for another cyber range for them, and it just gives me experience and it gives them a better lab. But I did find 2 bugs, and once I notified the instructor, they immediately went into my environment and they fixed it, and they told me, go ahead now, it's fixed, and yeah, just the support and the reactions of the people in this exam and this platform is just so quick and great. So you don't need to worry about that. thinking, this platform is new to you, or you haven't seen this platform before, it's still very reliable and effective. Um, so after your lab access expires, you can get a subscription. It's pretty cheap, I think like 10 or 20 bucks per month. However, I got the yearly subscription that was discounted from 200 to $100 because I am a Bootcamp member, and that provides me access for the entire year to any labs that come out, and what matters most is to any cyber ranges, which are the massive corporate environments that are insanely useful to prepare. At the time of this video, we only have 2 cyber ranges. I did one of them to prepare. I did it twice, that I'll talk about. But for you, whenever you're doing this, really look at using the voucher if they give you one to get a yearly subscription, and then doing cyber ranges, just doing them over and over again, even the same cyber range, doing it 2, 3 times will give you skills that go beyond just, okay, how do I attack this one thing? It'll go beyond that and give you skills like, okay, how do I map out, how do I enumerate, keep track of everything that I enumerated in order to connect the dots and then quickly find the critical path without going through all of these other random stuff that would waste my time during the exam. Things that are red teaming, that are core red teaming skills, are learned through hacking these corporate simulations, these large networks. And that's why I highly recommend you get the cyber ranges, the $100 or $200 if you don't have the voucher, yearly pass that grants access to the cyber ranges. I'll show you a little bit about the cyber range experience that I had and how I used it to prepare in a little bit after we get through these last points about the exam. So the boot camp and exam environments are completely separate from the Pwnlabs environment and domain and everything like that. So you don't need to worry about like accounts, stuff like that. They give you access separately. Um, does the bootcamp give you everything you need to succeed in the exam? I think it would, although I did many other things that I'm going to share with you. But for the sake of, if you don't have the time or money to get other things, I'd say that if the boot camp is the only thing that you're gonna do, and even separate from the labs, if you're not even gonna do all of the labs on the platform and just the boot camp activities and environment, I'd say that yeah, you could probably learn everything, but you would have to do the exercises in the bootcamp and lab environment of the bootcamp about, I'd say, 2 or 3 times, taking notes and taking reusable commands for the future. And this is just because when I'm preparing, I'm using multiple different sources in order to get variations of the same thing, and very fruitfully so by not using the same thing and using other different things with different names, different resource associations, different tags, etc. But if you're okay with using the same thing, then yeah, the bootcamp is sufficient. But do it a couple times until things are ingrained into you somewhat, and you have reusable notes, and you can easily identify what you did from looking at your notes or your diagram. Like if you look at it, like, oh yeah, that's when I attacked the lambda, which led to a database, and yeah, we got the flag after getting that last IM roll. And if you're not able to do that, if you look at it and you're like, wait, what? I forgot what I did here. Oh yeah, that thing exists, that service, right? Then you are not ready for the exam. That's why, yeah, it can be sufficient, but I'm gonna recommend to you a couple of resources. So another thing about the exam, kind of unrelated, but the bootcamp, you have access for life. That means in the exam, whenever you do it, like I did, I had my bootcamp resources, my videos, my lab notes, all of that. I have it up. I have 4 monitors, and which really helped me. It's been helping me for the last year or so. And I have I had a lab, my lab notes, my lab diagrams, I had videos of the sessions in the boot camp, which I used on the spot in order to get through like I think two of the attack paths of the exam. I literally looked at a session video in order to get them, and so yeah, all that you have lifetime access to. So do you need your own Amazon cloud in order to do the exam? Yeah, you need an Amazon cloud. You need an AWS account to do it. Do you need your own virtual machine on the Amazon cloud network on the AWS account that you have? I did because when I first got into this boot camp, I found that there were problems in my virtual machine, my Kali, my local hosted Kali virtual machine. I had problems with DNS accessing specific endpoints of AWS, such as I think it was the buckets API or some other endpoint. And I tried to fix it. I even got one of the instructors to help me in real time. We tried to fix it. We did all the troubleshooting. Like this guy, he gave me so many troubleshooting techniques, and I still couldn't fix it. And but if you go on AWS and make a virtual machine, you can make a free tier virtual machine, by the way, and you make an EC2 and you make a Kali. Actually, sorry, if you make a Kali, you do have to pay for it because the Kali virtual machine, it uses a better type of stuff for the virtual machine. But if you make a free tier one and then just convert it into a Kali, that's probably possible. You make an Ubuntu or you make a AWS and Amazon Linux one, convert it to Kali, and there you go. You have an EC2. You have a host on Amazon Cloud, which will never have any DNS problems with Amazon because it's literally hosted on their network. And so that's what I did. I hosted it on their network in order to evade and bypass any DNS problems that could ever exist. So every time I do anything AWS related, I go to the EC2. I used to use Cloud Shell just because it's very convenient. You could just pull up a tab on your browser, and there you go. You have your Kali. But then I started using SSH just because the Cloud Shell session kind of like pauses or something, and then you have to click in order for it to resume. And then before the month finishes, there's a Cloud Shell time that you're allocated per account, and so it finishes like after 20 days of the month. So I couldn't keep using it. I just started using SSH to get into my AWS host. Like this is something some other guys were asking, like what's the point, to have a host on the cloud and things like that. And I'm just like, if is the point just to do the exam, or are you gonna hack AWS stuff? And so like if you're gonna hack AWS stuff, stop asking like is something necessary or not. Think like, is this gonna be something that I'm gonna do in order to hack an AWS network in the future? Okay, well then I'm gonna establish a way to have this forever. And so that's what I did. By the way, AWS, the instance costed me, if you're going to pay for the Kali, like fresh packaged Kali onto Amazon, I think it's supposed to cost me about $5 to $10, I'm pretty sure. However, it does cost me, I think, $20 to $25 per month because I think I added 100 gigabytes and I also have a bucket just to transfer stuff and to get logs. And I used Athena to analyze logs, and I did a bunch of other things. So total, it costed me I think it costed me $25 per month to keep this up. However, I did start like I have like a mini company thing that I'm working on. And if you start an organization or a company and you have a website for it or anything like that, you have like evidence that you have an organization, then you could apply to AWS to get a grant. Like the first grant is $1,000, and then the next ones they get increase and increase. And companies do this for all the cloud service providers. But anyways, long story short, you can do that. I got approved within like days, and then I got $1,000 credit, so I don't even pay for this Kali instance on the cloud. Um, so is the exam proctored? No, it's not proctored, but believe me, you can't cheat because nobody and nothing online knows about the stuff like uh, yeah, so you can't cheat anyways. So I mean, like honestly, I did web application pen testing on Hack the Box. I finished the CBBH. I did the Pen 100 and Pen 200. I didn't finish Pen 200 for the OCP, but I'm gonna do the exam a bit later. But I did, and then I did Hack the Box, the penetration testing, a little bit of the advanced web exploit, and AWS hacking, like cloud penetration testing, is the only thing where you can get misinformation and you can get and you can find situations where you can't even find something about it. And like even pen testing in general, like cloud pen testing is completely overlapped with research and threat hunting. Like it's bizarre. Like that's how new it is. And I'm sure it's not that new, but that's just my experience. I found that it's much less established what you can attack and how you can attack things on cloud. So cheating I don't think is even a problem at the current state that we're in. And Yeah, so do the exam attempts expire? Nope, nothing expires. Everything is full lifetime access until you use it. And so now let's talk about the first kind of somewhat external resource that I used to prepare, which was the Cyber Range, the AWS corporate environment simulation called Electra. So luckily for me, they launched this. They launched this at the same time that I was getting into cloud. Actually, before I did the bootcamp, I joined the Pwnlabs Discord, and I joined the website. I think just to get an idea of cloud. Somebody mentioned it on Hack the Box, and I went in, and then I got a notification. The CEO is looking for people to beta test Electra, and they're like Cyber Range, and then I look up Cyber Range, and it's like a Prolab from Hack the Box. So I'm like, Prolab, I love Prolab. So I was like, okay, let me in. And then I went in. I was like, what the heck is all this? And then I did my first attempt in the beta test. I didn't know what I was doing, but I think I got through about maybe 75%, just kind of researching and digging in. And there was also somewhat of a write-up that we could follow for the beta testers. And then I didn't get to finish it. The bootcamp started. Then I started using the bootcamp lab environment. I did the bootcamp lab environment twice. And then I did all of the red teaming labs on the Academy lab platform. And then I went back here and I got the subscription to do Electra, not beta, completely like normal. And I did Electra, and it was critical. It was critical preparation. And so let me give you some of the deets on why Electra was critical for me as preparation. So firstly, um, firstly, there's a value for hacking too many things at once, and there are things that you can learn and skills that you can gain from being overwhelmed, from getting stuck in one place and then having to look at other places in order to get unstuck. And this is something that probably every in the real world penetration or red teaming professional probably already has as skills. But as trainees, we don't we aren't aware of the significance of being stuck, being overwhelmed, needing to rely on organization because there are too many hosts that are compromised, needing to establish methodologies and protocols because there are things that need to be like ideas, experiments that need to be fleshed out, methodologies for different protocols that need to be utilized in a timely manner, step by step. You see a resource, for example, and you're like, oh, being a lab, being in like a lab environment framework, or being like a, I studied this in that certain module framework. Like, okay, commence operation, do all the attacks that I know on this resource. But what does it do to you when you see a resource, but you see a bunch of other resources, like 10 other resources that you've discovered through situational awareness and enumeration? Well, instead of doing that, just going one by one and doing every single thing that you can, you then formulate a more efficient methodology over time. And that's what Electra did for me. I did it like two, three times. And basically, for me, what that means is that I map out all of the resources that I gain in situational awareness. And then I associate with them in a diagram. I associate with them. Um, I associate with them. Wait. Oh, sorry. I can't show you that. Where's the other one? Oh, here it is. And then I associate with them, so several different resources, and then I associate with them the tags. I associate any associated data with those things all in the diagram. And then what we can do is we can connect the different resources together, whether they seem related in some sort of development stack or whatever it is. And then we can gather, okay, well, these two go together. So you do a little matching game, and then your attack paths and your attacks overall on one resource is, all encompassing. It's aware of the other resources. It's aware of what kind of languages might be being used. What's the in web application attacking terms, aware of the backend, knowing what's being used, what's the technology, and then making or engineering your attacks accordingly. And so having that awareness is something that you gain through something like Electra, getting that skill that I want to be, first I want to be aware, first I want to organize, first I want to keep track. Like here I do have this database of commands, but for the exam, I also have an Excel sheet that is a database just for the exam. And that's like there are two sheets in there, which is like the first one is all the credentials that I find and all of the users and roles that I find and all of the and another one is all of the assets that I find. Well, why is that? Because conveniently on Excel, what I can do is I can take the database that I have, go like this, all of the users, for example, press copy, paste it into a text document on my Kali, and then start a brute forcing attack. You have to brute force users and you have to brute force roles. You have to see if the current IM that you got access to can assume any roles. You have to brute force resources. Maybe one resource you could only find so little data, so few data, so few permissions to access the data of that resource. Then you get a different access point, and you have to brute force these resources to check if this access point has more access to those same resources. And so that's why I keep a database for everything here. On one side, I keep the database, users, assets, credentials, and then on the other side, I make the diagram. And once I'm stuck, Well, once you're stuck on the exam, you're overwhelmed, you're getting stressed out, you take a step back, you take a step back, and at the same time that you do, you zoom out like this, and you go ahead and you say, okay, well, where am I now? How did I get here? What are the things that I didn't access? And what are things that I can try? What are some experimental things that I can look at? And that's how I make my diagrams, is things that are yellow are things that I can look at and I can experiment at. So once I get into the future and I get stuck, I go back and find the things that are yellow and I see, okay, well, I didn't fully explore those, I didn't fully enumerate or attack them. And so that's why diagrams and a database. That's all I use ever since like 1 month or 2 months. I threw away Notion and I threw away everything. And yeah, this is all I did for the exam as well. So now let's look at, so yeah, Electra did that. And let me actually go ahead and kind of talk about the um, the core skills that Electra kind of provided me as I jotted them down here for you. So firstly, it enhanced my methodology. So my methodology uh, is and will always be to discover, organize, and then research to have an idea of the things that I discovered, even when I don't know all the resources. Because research is so ingrained into my methodology, I'm never concerned when, wait, I have to research right now? Like, what? I should be fully prepared. I don't know what to do. Because research is just a standard protocol now, I always research and there's never a worry. I research and I talk to ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT, what are the different elements of this resource? What are the different use cases of this resource? What could be the developers using if these resources are available? And why are they using those? And then after research, after understanding and organizing, mapping it out, putting it everything in the database, having things there for me so that there's no chance for me to rely on my forgetful brain. There's no way for me to to get up and something occurs, I have to go do something, I come back and I just forget everything. That is not possible because everything is right there on my screen. All I have to do is zoom out on my map or look at my database. And then attacking. So in terms of attacking and enumeration, what kind of practical technical skills does Electra provide you if you were to use it as preparation? Firstly, we have the web exploitation necessary for the exam. So, like I said previously, you're going to need an intermediate level web app exploitation skill, which is SSRF through things like double gopher encoding, and what would help you even more is knowing how to convert or reach things like command injections from SSRFs, making remote code execution persistence files and things like that, enumerating, and just overall just being a little bit aware of what's possible through an SSRF and how the different ways that you can do an SSRF, and especially since like you can get away with only learning the SSRF required for this exam and for this boot camp, and only knowing the specific variation of Gopher or the specific variation that applies to the technology that you're working on. But what happens after this exam, like when you want to use the stuff, or in this case where you want to do Electra, which has a completely different backend, which allows a completely different SSRF and things like that. Well, you're going to be completely stuck if that's the case. If there's an SSRF on a different technology and you only learned how to do SSRF on one specific technology, then this entire method of initial access is thrown out the window. So you need some intermediate level um, web application penetration testing in order to adequately say you can assess whether or not initial access is possible on an AWS infrastructure. And next, you have to be able to, and I realized this through Electra, was that having an awareness of developers, having an awareness of the IT guys, what they can do, what they usually do, and how they kind of operate is crucial. This is because I found that a lot of, not a lot, but I found a few times where I'm like, but why would this be a flaw? And like, why would this be a vulnerability? After researching and after this occurred several different times, and me asking the instructor or asking somebody, and and the answer being, oh, well, convenience. The IT guys, they have to make sure that operations, they have to do things fast. That's why they have, a launch script that exposes credentials, or that's why they associate the user data or password data with the instance in the metadata, so that they don't have to go into the host itself and do things every time they have to restart that instance. And just things that developers and IT people do is something that you gain an awareness of through large networks like this and in Electra, especially from Pwnlabs, where they try to make the labs as realistic as possible and as enjoyable as possible as well. Um, so we also, in Electra, we also get preparation for basic things like Linux enumeration, post-exploit network enumeration techniques, lateral movement techniques for basic penetration testing things. And I highlight this even though it's not that related to the exam, is because these things, if they're not required for the attack path, help a lot to give you awareness and situational awareness, and help you cross out possibilities. And what I mean by this is that even in an environment where the attack paths, like the exam or like any lab on Pwnlabs, where the attack paths are guaranteed cloud related, because everything is just cloud related, you can still get value from having these general penetration testing, network penetration testing skills, like Linux enumeration, lateral movement, network internal host pivoting, and network enumeration from internal host compromises. These things all help you to cross out things like if something isn't there, then you know that an attack path doesn't exist, and that allows you to focus your time and energy on attack paths that could exist. And so, yeah, that's something that I also found on Electra. Another thing that I found was the requirement just to be able to read common languages like JSON and Python. Like being able to read Python is crucial, just simply because it's the most common language used for the serverless functions. And so being able to inject Python and inject Python to reach the APIs and the endpoints, and to reach the database, and to reach whatever else resources is associated with that function, that's also something that you gain preparation for in what's it called, in Electra. And in terms of languages, is scripting necessary for the exam? I did I did I did create 2 or 3 scripts in the exam. However, um, that was, I think, 2 of them, yeah, maybe all of them, were due to bugs. And then for me, when I found the bug, I was like, oh, maybe I need to do this other like roundabout way and make a script in order to to do these things. And I made like two different scripts, and I was just like, I spent a few hours doing that until I spoke to the instructor about it. But it was really enjoyable, and it was a learning experience. And okay, I guess I shouldn't say that scripting is necessary. However, if you want to feel very good about yourself, then I would say that scripting is necessary, and it's very fun to make scripts on the spot when you're doing these engagements and these labs. And it also crosses out things for you, like if the script succeeds or if it doesn't succeed, then you know that okay, you won't have in the back of your head like, damn, bro, if only I had a script to do this, what I want to do, then maybe that would have worked and that might have been the attack path. And so you won't have that in the back of your head if you can just do the thing. And other than that, common languages, basics of database and database enumeration is also required. Like resources on AWS can be any resources from network pen testing. And so having understanding of resources in network pen testing is going to help you in the exam and in AWS and in all of cloud and in Electra that was evident an abundance of resources for you to train on, to experiment on, and it was very fruitful for me. Way more fruitful than the exam environment. Even though the exam environment I had to pen test within just one day, and the Electra environment I had to spend way more time, like 3 days, like 3 days to a week, I think. And but yeah, the Electra environment was just so generous with how much access points it gives you. Like you get access point after access point after access point, and then it just feels incredible to have so much access in an environment, and you feel like you're conquering all of the ground slowly closing in on the last flag, and it's just like it's an experience. Whereas I'd say the exam is like a condensed version of that. That's kind of my opinion on the difference between network as preparation. Is that you do the network, you're chill out, there's no time limit, you explore slowly, you research, you do all this on a timely manner, and then on the exam, I'm not even gonna lie to you, you got to be able to do like a lot of that, if not all of that and more, within less time and within less space. And so what I mean by space is that with these big pro labs and like cyber range, for example, um, you get a lot of space. Like you get resources that are open to so many other resources that are open to so many IM roles and users, and you can just flow like it's a sea. And on the exam, it's like you're put into a little white room, into a little box, and you got to find a hole. And so, but yeah, that's kind of the difference. Another thing is the DevOps of their understanding of DevOps and being aware of how developers operate, understanding stacks of development, and this is all covered in the bootcamp anyways. But yeah, that's something core skills from the cyber ranges. Another one is organization, like I mentioned before. I organize things not just into diagrams, but I organize them into stages. Like if I have external enumeration, that's its own page of diagrams. And then, external exploitation, it might be another stage. Um, and um, and then the initial access portion might be another stage. And then after initial access, then every stage for me is an access point. So if I get a role, that's a stage. If I get a user or if I get access through some service that provides access to everything, then that might also be another stage. A host is a stage for me if it's like if it's as important as an exam as this exam that I did, then a host is an entire stage and it deserves its own page of diagrams and enumeration and mapping. Um, so yeah, that's another core skill that I believe I gained or developed through Electra. And then there are some technical things, and one of them being the standard brooding protocol. So brute forcing is, I don't think, stressed enough throughout the preparation, like throughout the bootcamp environment. Although, probably does occur a few times, but it is very, 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 very important and common to brute force. Let me make this clear: nothing other than resource access and role access. So, I'm going to kind of establish for you the fact that brute forcing is not only not intended on these lab environments, but in many cases in lab environments, it's actually just not even allowed. And this is because it causes problems to the infrastructure. However, brute forcing roles and access to resources is something that I learned is very necessary and required in AWS pen testing engagements throughout Electra. What this means is that if you get access to a user or role, you immediately check, okay, with your database of roles, are there any of them that this current role that you got or this current user can assume, or resources like I mentioned before, is there any extra access that you gained by having this access point or role or user that you got? And then I also learned a little bit about POC, like proof of concept and organization of attack paths. This is because like if you're pivoting and you're moving around, you're weaving internally, uh, and the network, especially on AWS environments, by default, and what I've noticed that the lab engineers do is they don't provide you with means of doing standard network lateral movement techniques, organization of compromises through C2s and things like that. So you're not going to be using Ligolo, you're not going to be using Sliver, you're not going to be doing any of this. You're going to have to be able to, if you want to achieve access to something that you compromised in the past, you're going to have to repeat the steps. And in a situation where it's like Electra, where it's like a huge network, it really taught me the core principle of organizing a rough proof of concept to get to that access point. And for me, what that meant was I arranged lines of commands that if you run them, you get to that access point. And I did that within my diagram, so I even have an idea through the symbols and everything. I get an idea of which access points require which uh, paths and kind of proof of concept layers. And another thing that core principles that I learned in Electra that helped me to prepare was also encryption and decryption of resources using other assets and reusing assets and keys to encrypt to decrypt resources that you find later. And this is something that helped me do that helped me understand the value of organization. And so what that means is like if I keep a key, then in the future and I find something encrypted, then I immediately have that key for me because I put it in my database as an asset because I put all the assets in my database. So then I go, okay, well, I have that key. I don't need to scour around to look for, wait, did I even find a key or something? I just have everything in my database for me to use whenever I need to use it. And yeah, that's just kind of another red teaming organization. And another red teaming organization skill that you gain through doing these larger networks is the idea of correlating resources and matching ideas and concepts behind resources, matching names between resources, and trying to make a rough blueprint of what the stacks are for the organizations of resources. So this is like this is for the devs, and this other stack is for production, and this other thing is probably related to that database, and this other thing is like related to the externally exposed resources. And so being able to do that just by looking at the tags, looking at the names, is something that you gain when doing a larger network, because you're like stuck and you're like, okay, well, I repeated everything I did in the isolated labs, and nothing seems to work on any of the resources that I haven't got access to, and you're just stuck there. And so what do? You just kind of doze off and be like, hey, that dev Ron, and then there's also dev this other thing, and then there's also like dev database, and you start to kind of be like, wait, what if that also goes into this, and then it leads to that, and then you just start experimenting mentally. And that's something that you learn if you organize enough, and if you just kind of make things easy for yourself by drawing things out and keeping everything organized in a database. Where if you're stuck, there's no room for like, man, I'm stuck because I missed something, or I'm stuck because I completely ignored something, and it's such a chore to go back and redo everything, so I just give up completely. There's no room for that because you already have everything in front of you, and you can be like, okay, well, if I'm stuck, well, everything is right here, so I'm gonna read through every single line of my database and see what I haven't adequately enumerated or attacked. Uh, let's see what was left. So yeah, those are kind of the core skills that I gained preparing through Electra, and I can't stress this enough. It was crucial for me. Like, it was crucial for me to do Electra like I did it 2 or 3 times, because of how much it helped me not just solidify awareness and knowledge of the protocols that you do against different resources, but expanding from that, the dynamics between resources, the dynamics that you have to have between yourself and the resources. And yeah, so Electra helped me with that. So other resources that I used for preparation. Firstly, I used TryHackMe. By the way, this is the certification for Electra. So I used attacking and defending AWS by TryHackMe. So I'm going to give you the kind of the reels about this certification and about this course. It does cost like a couple hundred, I think, and for all of you guys working, that's not a problem because your company will just pay for it. But the value of this course is in the core and the basic principles of AWS and attacking AWS that it provides you. So as you can see, it gives you like an abundant of introductory and basics. So here, everything about IAMs and everything about the core resources, like virtual machines and buckets. And what I enjoyed the most out of this course that I did not get in the bootcamp or the labs in Pwnlabs. I did all the red teaming labs, and I did not once have a chance to manipulate VPCs to manipulate the virtual networks in the infrastructure in order to attack and do things like lateral movement. And this course provided me with just that, and it was a great experience. It was a very lengthy experience. I think I did that exercise like 2 times just to solidify it. And then it also has this kind of capstone section 5 where you do get to like do things like enumerate, initial access, and even here it's not shown, but even in initial access, it does give you what's it called? It does give you an opportunity to do things like laterally move and privilege escalation. So yeah, I used this course. I also used the MCRTA, which stands for Multi-Cloud Red Team Analyst. So this course is great. It's very beginner friendly, and I basically used this course to gain more basics. Like the Try Hack Me course did not sufficiently give me the basics, and even this, I say a little bit, but not sufficiently give me the basics. It was really about putting in the time, patiently researching the resources that I'm trying to attack, and patiently, like I have discussions with ChatGPT, and I talk to it, and I respect the resource, and I respect the protocols and the things about the resource to the point where I ask about everything and I look at everything and I try to gain a holistic view about the resource and the dynamics that it could have with other resources. And I did that for things until that solidified my understanding. So I did this as well. In this, if you're going to do any external resources, I recommend you do this one first, simply because it provides you with an enormous amount of external and internal enumeration, which are like the first phases of anything. And so if you do this first, you'll at least get a good grasp of the first stage of the exam and the first stage of the engagement. And another external resource that I did was Infinity. So Infinity is made by Cyber Warfare, and it has Cloud Labs. So I did all of the AWS Cloud Red Teaming Labs on here, and what's nice about this is that it's free. And oh, sorry. By the way, this certification, the Cyber Warfare certification, is not free, but it's only like I think $5 or $10. And so this platform is free. And the other nice thing about it is that all the labs are within the same AWS environment, which means that just like I did with the Bootcamp lab environment, I didn't go through every single lab. I didn't go through every single lab at first. I just got the first access that I can get my hands on from one of the labs, and then I just started enumerating and attacking everything. And from that, I think I gained like 4 or 5 flags out of 10. And then afterwards, I needed the other creds to fully get all of the 9 or 10 flags that are available. But yeah, I did do this to kind of just repeat what I did in the bootcamp and in the Pwnlab labs. And then another thing that I did was I did a little bit of Black Sky Labs. So, like I said, having a company is very advantageous. Like when I spoke to Hack the Box, there's like a trial thing that you can do, and I used my company to get a trial for the AWS one, Hailstorm, and I finished, I believe, about I think 70%, 70 or like maybe even 75% of Hailstorm, but I couldn't keep doing it. Um, I had to go back and do more boot camping stuff. But one thing I'll say about if you're going to use Hack the Box, or if your company is willing to pay for Hack the Box, is that it's great. Um, there are so many resources. There are more defensive resources for AWS than offensive. But in terms of this ProLab, the Hailstorm ProLab, my experience is that in comparison to Electra, um, Hailstorm or on Hack the Box, they do not try to fix. They do not try to the fixate the lab for only AWS exploitation. Like Electra tries to maximize how much AWS attacking that you do, whilst Hailstorm it kind of throws you at everything. Like like I was using Burp Sweep. I was even using Postman, which I thought like why do I have to use Postman? But yeah, like Postman and then network lateral movement, all of that. Um, Standard network penetration testing things like a lot of host enumeration, and I was even using like scripts to identify misconfigurations in the hosts themselves, which I'm pretty sure at some cases were a thing, but I can't really remember. But yeah, Hailstorm kind of like network pen testing and cloud pen testing, but Electra they maximized and they isolated things to give you as much AWS pen testing as possible. Although I did not finish Hailstorm, so maybe it's bigger than Electra. I don't know, but yeah, that's all of the external resources that I did. Um, so yeah, my methodology during the exam. Again, I'll reiterate: you discover, you map things out in Draw.io, and you do so with an organizational methodology where you put different stages in different page of the Draw.io, as I do here. You put every resource, every IM, everything significant into a database in the correct sheet of that database. So credentials and credentials, um, and assets in assets. And I also have another one for keywords that did not prove fruitful. It did not prove fruitful to keep keywords because of the sole reason that brute forcing is not a thing. So, you know, if you keep keywords, then you can use a rules list on the keywords in order to make very realistic word lists to brute force. And so that was my logic, but it was not very fruitful for me to do so. I think I discarded keywords completely going into the exam. And then after putting everything into the maps and into the databases, then you enumerate each resource and you enumerate all the things that you have equally before any attacks. And after that, you have maybe you have some IAMs that you discovered or some resources. You add them to previous IAMs and resources, and you brute force for access to those things. That's the only thing you brute force. And then after that, that's when you commence attacks. That's when you commence attacks to the resources using your awareness for all of the resources. Lastly, before closing off, I just wanted to touch on the mindset that you should have going into the certification and probably all things that you do, which is that I am sorry, one sec. Which is that the mindset I have, I am here to learn. And why I'm here to learn is because I haven't chosen this profession to get certification. I haven't chosen this profession to make massive amounts of stacks. I'm here to learn because I want to do this profession and I want to hack in the most efficient and effective way possible. So I'm always learning. I mean, like one thing I did in the exam or in general overall, is whenever I realize something, I I write it down on the map itself. I write it down in a box that I make sure to color it pink. So a pink box on my map means something that I've learned or something that I've just realized that I need to keep for the future. And so I put it on the map and I'm like, and I write it down. And even on the exam, I found myself doing this because I was like, I'm not here to pass the exam. I'm here to learn. So I was putting all these pink boxes, and I did still pass. But let me see if I have a pink box anywhere over here. Um, let's see. Oh, here's one. Okay, so here's an example of what I mean by pink boxes on my diagram for the sake of the learning perspective and the learning mindset. So I discovered after doing the cognitolateral movement of this Cognitolab, discovered that, here I put on a unauthenticated role from anonymous sign up using identity pool ID and no user pool ID. So this was crazy to me, and I just had to put it here because I found that incognito, it's a common misconfiguration and a common, flawed practice to allow unauthenticated roles, to provide unauthenticated roles for anonymous users that sign up. And from that, all you need is the identity pool ID. And so if the identity pool ID is exposed anywhere on in source code or in some sort of DevOps or in like a GitHub or in anything, then you could eventually get access to internal resources just from this, like being able to sign up with an anonymous, being able to sign up and then being able to get an authenticated role and then using the authenticated role to get, what is it here? Auth role with the identity pool user identity ID of the user pool ID that is the token issuer of the identity token for the unauth role. Okay, so sorry, I'm blanking, but basically the gist of this is that once you get the unauthenticated role, then the token that you can get through the unauthenticated role can provide you with a means of getting an authenticated role using an endpoint that provides authenticated access. And so this lateral movement all happened completely free, like completely, like you start from not having any access to gaining initial access to laterally moving to privileged access, and it was all here. So I was like, when I find something like these, I'm gonna put them in pink boxes on my map. And so this is even something that I did on the exam like several times, and and that's what I mean by prioritizing learning and maximizing learning. I even put it on resources. Like if a resource there's something for me to learn about it, then I make that resource pink. Like here, it's some kind of certificate or a key or something. And oh, right, password formats. So when successfully authenticating or registering, we should document the structure required for the passwords. This is because we can then spray or brute force in the future if we find users to spray or brute force access to. Like getting the structure of password. If you did network penetration testing, then this is probably standard for you on Active Directory. But I put it here just because, for me personally, I did not get extensive exposure to Active Directory. Just a little bit, I did it. Experimenting with C2s on it and things like that. But I found the value of that over here, just thinking about it and coming up with this pink box about it. And another color that I do is blue. So blue on my map means strategy, and I don't have many blue stuff here. Or here's the blue. Yeah, so blue means like things that I should look into or kind of reflections on what I can experiment with or things like that. So here, this blue box, it is my goals. And so like I made a little mini goal for the pen test and for the kind of stage of this lab. And so I did this and I wrote with the ID pool, we can get the identity ID, which is then used to, at this stage of the lab, I didn't know. So I just put a blank here and I left it, for me to later find or realize. And I just made these like the blue boxes of analysis and maybe what I want to attack and what I want to do. That's all blue boxes. Pink boxes are learning stuff. So here I put a cognito symbol and it's pink. So it's something that I learned or something that I'm learning. Using the ID pool ID, you can then use anonymous. And then here, I'd call it a pretty significant learning point about Cognito, which is that logs are not available for the identity pool. So the identity pool is managed by AWS, and so I don't know, like maybe AWS has the logs for itself, but the user, the customer, is not provided the ability to have logs, um, as far as my research went, for uh, for accessing identity pools for getting unauthenticated access. So this to me was a learning point that meant that if you use unauthenticated access, you can get log proof. You can get log proof persistence, meaning you can get persistence that doesn't have a log, which was kind of cool. And I have a bunch of other ones, but yeah, that's the basics of how I map things out. Otherwise, you just start from the top and you go branch out downwards. The yellow ones are things that you did not completely attack or did not completely access, so you keep them yellow. So you can look back, you can zoom out. Okay, there's the yellow stuff over here. Okay, I didn't access the Lambda tracking. I didn't access the bucket app images. And then you move forward. At the top, you put the access point. That's the stage of this engagement is Cognito unauthenticated access. And then you keep moving. Again, start from the top. And here, the stage is actually this user here at the bottom, or this role rather. But you keep all of how you got there above it in case you need to repeat the access to that role. So you keep it here even though you put it in the other map page. So you keep it here, so then you can copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and suddenly you're where you're at in the engagement. And yeah, is there anything else here? Always, I try to make each thing the symbol for it. So this is a command that I use to get the policy. So the symbol is a policy symbol. And if there's no symbol, like here, I just have this, what's it called? CloudFox, I believe. CloudFox enumeration tool. And so it's just a simple box. And over here, what you would do in this other box, make two boxes, one inside the other. And so you put CloudFox, you put the command. So CloudFox, maybe it's inventory or something, and you make it like that. And since we're here, the only tools that I used in the exam were CloudFox and Paku, and then I did use other ones, and I used what's it called? Let me just give some tools that are absolutely necessary for all these. So AWS sprayer, the AWS sprayer. I can't remember what it's called. Let me check here the OICD checker. So it checks if there's if there's a misconfigured access to things like GitHub and things like that, and this checks it for you. Although you can do it naturally, enumerating the roles and finding finding access like that, but this one checked it for you really quickly. And Go AWS Console Sprayer is the console sprayer that I talked about. Oh, one tool that is great is PM Mapper. Although PM Mapper is not going to be useful to you anytime except for real life, because in a real life engagement, they'll give you access to this permission, which is get account authorization details, and this permission is required for you to use PM Mapper. But if you do use PM Mapper, you can then use CloudFox with PM Mapper in order to show, like, they just work together to show you pathways of privilege escalation, which is very neat. But yeah, in terms of tools that like are absolutely necessary that I use every single time I do anything, is just these two. CloudFox. CloudFox gives you the general enumeration and it checks every single region. And it gives you all the resources and everything, and even the principles. And then Paku brutes them for you, and that's just it. Uh, so yeah. Let's see. There's nothing else here. So I hope you guys pass the exam. And if you need me, you can catch me on LinkedIn. I'll put that below, or on Discord or whatever. And yeah, thank you, and I hope you guys pass. See you.